Today we are talking about the new moon in Aquarius, and this marks the Lunar New Year and the Year of the Water Tiger. And I have good news for almost every sign, so stay tuned. Hi everyone, it's Donna Stellhorn, your practical astrologer, here to talk to you today about the new moon in Aquarius. This happens on February 1st, and we are going to be going sign by sign, looking at the different energies. But before we get started, I have a few things to tell you about what's going on astrologically for you, so I hope you will listen to this introduction. Now, every year, the new moon in Aquarius marks the beginning of the Lunar New Year, and that signals the new animal sign. And in this case, it's going to be Water Tiger. And so the Water Tiger energy, which, by the way, I did do some videos on, and if you want to check those out, there's a link to the playlist in the description. But the Year of the Water Tiger is a very different energy than what we had in 2021. That was metal ox. I had to think for a second. That was metal ox. And so this energy in comparison is so much more vibrant, so much more electric, that there are going to be so many opportunities for all of us. Now, tiger energy has kind of a dual nature, and so there are going to be periods during the year where everything seems to be happening. It's kind of like a roller coaster, which, you know, if you like roller coasters, is very, very exciting. And there's going to be all of this sort of quick moving activity. So that means opportunities that you need to grab hold of with both hands when you want them. Now, there will also be periods of extreme quiet, and this is kind of the napping period. And during these times, this is when you prepare, you get things ready for when the opportunities present themselves. Now, but the focus for 2022 is going to be pretty much about breaking free and learning how to work and live differently. And this is about being independent, being unique, you know, finding your own niche, finding your own territory, but still collaborating with others. Because as we talked about in past videos, this energy of the number 2 is going to be very, very strong. And so that is about that yin yang, that collaboration, about finding somebody who is going to fill in the different parts that maybe you struggle with or maybe you're lacking, and then you fill in those for them. Now, this energy for the water tiger is a little confrontational because tigers can be quite territorial. And so that does mean that you want to find your niche. And how you do that is by being yourself, by really just trusting that you are already unique. You already have a niche based on all of your varied interests. And so by you doing the things that you enjoy, things that you love, things that you're good at, you're going to find your territory. If you want to find out more about yourself, I do readings, and so do check out, there's some links in the description about my consultations and how you can find out more about your true calling. Now, a couple of days from this new moon, Mercury is going to go direct, and that's good news. So right out of the gate, for the first day or so, the energy is still a little bit backward, a little bit slow. You see, when planets turn to go direct, they have to slow down so that they can change directions, and then they completely stop, and then they turn, and then they move forward again. And of course, they're not doing this. That's apparent motion. That's how we see it from our vantage point on planet Earth. But it still has this correlation with us to affect the things that are happening in our life, especially Mercury retrograde, which can interrupt communications and electronics and all those things that we need on a daily basis. So what that all boils down to is that the few days before the new moon and the few days after the new moon, especially with that center point being February 3rd when Mercury goes direct, are going to be days where you're still going to feel frustrated about communications or electronics because things are moving slow. Now, the plus, though, is that once Mercury goes direct, you can go out and do new things because the energy is moving forward. It's just moving very, very slowly. Now, what happens right after Mercury goes direct. So this is just a couple of days in, and is still highlighted very strongly with this chart, is that Mercury will conjunct Pluto. So when Mercury is conjunct Pluto, all of us, everyone wants to investigate things. We want to get to the truth about things. We want to uncover the secrets. And so what we can expect is that some major secrets will be uncovered during this period. What we're going to find is news stories about secrets being uncovered, but also secrets could be uncovered in your own life or about people around you. Now, this is also a time where you are extremely powerful in your communications. And so that is if you want to get a new job, if you want to ask someone out, if you want to post something on social media, this is a time where you can do very powerful communications. And so you want to be thoughtful about what you're saying. It's a time where you can change minds, where you can affect people's thinking, where you can help people see your point of view. If you want to know more about Mercury retrograde or about Mercury in general and how it helps you communicate with others, myself and another astrologer, Tammy Magaro, wrote a whole series of books on this. There is a link to those books in the description. Now, Jupiter is in Pisces, and we're going to be talking about this on and off all year long. And today I wanted to focus you on this aspect of Jupiter in Pisces that is about a connection to your spiritual self. You have a clear conduit right now to the higher powers and your higher self. And that connection is done through spiritual rituals, and that can be meditation, magic, candle lighting, doing feng shui, doing prayer, doing affirmations. So thinking along these lines to take one of those things, whatever appeals to you, but incorporating it into a daily routine is very helpful at this time. Now, also, the North Node is now in Taurus, and so we're going to be talking about this on and off for many, many months. And so the part I want to highlight this time is that money comes to you during this period, especially when you feel you deserve it. And so how do you get to this place of feeling deserving? And that is one of the ways is to really do a great job, to really focus on the job you're doing, whatever product or service you are putting out there into the world, and putting in the time and effort to do it as best as you possibly can. And this means, analyzing what you've done in the past and seeing how you can make it better, asking for feedback, looking at where you can tweak it or alter it to make it more what is, as I said, the best job that you can do. And when you do that, you have a sense of deserving, and then opportunities come to you. What's important too, because this is about self-worth and deserving, is if you are putting out quality work over and over and you're not getting a response, then it is time to leave that situation, that company, that relationship. You need to move on to find your audience, to find the people who do value what you're doing. So as you are doing the good work and you're valuing it yourself, you will then notice whether the people in front of you are valuing it. And if they're not, it is time to move on. And the fortunate thing is, in this world, we have this opportunity to reach so many people, different types of people all over the world. So there's more of an opportunity to find your tribe, to find your audience than there ever has been. Okay, that's it for the introduction. Let's go sign by sign. Okay, Aries natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your area of the future, and this is where you need to break free. This is where whatever constraints you have put on yourself about the future, you need to examine those and see what is really a boundary and what isn't. And so it's possible that there are some limitations, but these are limitations that are either set about because of what maybe your parents say or what society's conventions have been in the past, but maybe these don't apply in the future, because these days there are so many ways to express yourself and to go forward that there is opportunities for you. It's sometimes, though, you cannot take the path that everybody else takes. Now, this new moon is conjunct Saturn, and that does mean that you are looking for the uphill climb. And I don't think that makes you nervous at all, because Aries, you're known for having energy, you're known for being a leader. And so this is your time to take your flag and charge up the hill so you can plant that flag first. But it does mean that if what you see before you is smooth sailing or kind of a downhill road, that's not the path right now, because the path does involve Saturn. When we look at the effects of this new moon on other aspects of your life, this is about looking at technology in your life and figuring out how you can free up your time and energy by automating things. And again, this might mean that there's some upfront work that you have to do. Maybe you've been putting that off, or maybe you've been waiting for Mercury to go direct, which you will do in a few days. But this is about, again, like doing some upfront work and then having things go better in the future because of what you're doing today. Now, this is also about friendships, and it is about looking at what responsibilities are on either side. And if you've been doing your part, but you're not receiving friendship, then it may be time to move on. Or if you find that the other person has been doing the majority of the work in the relationship and you want to keep this relationship going, then you have to do some of that to kind of meet them in the middle. So because the Saturn here does indicate that maybe they will say something over the course of the next 2 weeks if you don't. Now, the Mercury conjunct Pluto is right at the top of your chart, and this is where you're going to speak with the most power, the most authority is in your career. So this is a time to post your resume, to get job interviews, but also if you want to promote your own business, this is a time to really, launch something, launch a new product, launch a service, put yourself on YouTube or TikTok or some social media platform where you're speaking from the heart about what it is that you're doing. This is also a good time to communicate through writing. And so, or you might go lecture or there's so many different ways to communicate, but communication is key here. And then, of course, it's the year of the tiger. And for Aries, you guys are quite in harmony with this energy because tiger energy is high energy. And so you're going to fit in just fine. So you're going to find there's quite a few opportunities for you when you are accessing that tiger energy, which is go for the adventure, go for the excitement, go for something that does take high energy. That is going to put you ahead. Now, when it comes to new love relationships, it's really interesting because you're doing some energy here, but it's only a semi-sextile between the Sun and Mars. And so what we're expecting is that it's the irritating person who actually gets your attention, or that you are irritated because the person you're interested in is not calling you back right away. So all I can say is if you could be a little patient, which I just told Aries to be patient. But if you could, what you'll find is that things do work out. But during the next 2 weeks, you're going to find it's a little bit bumpy. I do see connections. That's good, but it's not the smoothest road. On the other hand, existing love relationships look great. You guys are more in harmony now than you have been in some time. And so you should be able to solidify things, and that is move the relationship forward if you want, make some sort of commitment to each other. But you're more of a united front now. And so if you are facing things in the external world, like doing a business together or, dealing with teenagers, you're going to have an easier time. When it comes to home and family, there's, again, your little bit bumpy is happening, but I like the fact that there is a connection here. It's just that maybe things are not happening as smoothly as you like. So try not to be, overly stressed about the little things that could go wrong. And that is, like maybe a small appliance breaks, or, you see that there's some sort of paint chipping, or a door doesn't close properly, or there's some small things that are going to maybe be something that you need to fix or repair in the future, but kind of wait it out to see if this is just some temporary energy. It's the same thing with the family itself. Like if you're kind of getting on each other's nerves a little bit, just take a step back and do something else, because I think this energy will clear. And, if you will let it be. If you are kind of poking at it, then yeah, it's like poking a bear. Eventually the bear wakes up and, then you have a fight. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Venus, which is now moving forward and is at the top of your chart. So you have some very good energy because you are very visible. And this means that, as you are putting the energy out there to bring in money from whatever source you want, as long as you are seen, then money can come to you. And that is seen by the universe, seen by the higher forces. And that means, doing what it is that you do, for a profession, your talents, your hobbies, but not hiding, not, just practicing in the corner, but actually stepping up on stage and saying, here I am. Now that the North Node is going to go through your house of money for a long time, it's very important to learn the lessons about money. The faster you learn them, the faster you are going to make money. And the lessons are about handling money, about, keeping track, figuring out, what to keep and how to spend. So focus on lessons in the next 2 weeks and you can make a lot of headway. Now, when it comes to money from traditional investments or investments done in a traditional method or your own business, Venus is not making an aspect with Pluto, but it is making an aspect with Mars. So we do see some ability to accumulate money here, but it's not as strong. And I think it's just because the payment is coming later, because Venus is going to line up with Pluto in one of the future videos that we talk about. It's just not quite lining up now. So this could mean that, they have payment terms, so they don't need to pay you for a few months, or that it's not quite time to cash in. But the energy's still very good because Venus and Pluto are in the same sign and Venus is closing in. I just think that the profits are outside this 2-week period. Now, when it comes to money from your job, now the energy is quite good because Venus is making a trine to Uranus and you have Moon, Sun, and Saturn in that house. And so everything here says that now's the time to ask for the raise. And if you are stonewalled, if you are delayed, it is really time to consider moving on because your house of career is so highlighted. You want to capitalize on this energy. So if you have been waiting for a promotion, if you've been waiting for more money and it's still not coming through over the next 2 weeks, it's your sign from the universe. It's time to move on. But if you have not been asking, if you have not been hinting to the boss, go ahead and do that because the energy is really lined up this time. Now, when it comes to investments done in a very risky manner or high risk investments, speculation and gambling, Venus is making a semi-sextile to the sun, which means that you are irritated by the results. So I think that means that not the irritation is smaller, but the results are smaller than you were hoping. That means you're getting some because you're still making an aspect. So money's still flowing into your account, but it's far less than you were thinking it was going to be. So if you are thinking to push all of your chips into the pot, for some reason the pot is pretty small, or that there's so many delays or other external costs that you're not making a big profit. But all of that said, it is an aspect, and an aspect means that there are some profits. Okay, Taurus, you guys are doing this new moon right at the top of your chart. This is highlighting you as well as your career. This means you are more easily seen, that others, you walk into any place and they know your name, like people have been waiting to connect with you. Now, this new moon is conjunct Saturn, and Saturn, while it's a difficult energy, you're more in harmony with this type of energy because you're used to working hard. And so this may mean that, you get the promotion, but it is going to be more work. Or you get a new job and there's a learning curve. Or even where you're connecting in a new relationship, but now you have to adjust your schedule so that you can see this person. So there is a little bit of work, but I think that you're going to find the work quite enjoyable. Where we show force and intensity in your communication is in your area of spirituality, as well as legal matters and education. So starting with education, if you need to talk to a school counselor or someone about your courses or your loans or things like that, then you want to have this conversation over the next 2 weeks, if that's at all possible. This is also a good time to look at court cases you're involved in and see, by reading the materials or talking to your attorney, how you can move things forward, because your voice is quite powerful at this time. And then from a spiritual standpoint, that means that your communication to the higher powers, God and the universe, is extremely strong right now. And so by placing your wish list out there with emotion connected to it, you can see some real results. Now, when we look at the year of the tiger for you, tiger energy is quite different than your own energy. It's this kind of, high energy in spurts, whereas you are more slow and steady, wins the race. And so you are going to find that some people come into your life and they're going to be like rush, rush, rush. And then when you get there, they're not ready, and then you have to wait for them. So it will be necessary for you to be patient with other people, because you're going to find, especially at the beginning of the year, as people are getting used to the new energy, that people are quite erratic, that they don't show up on time. When they do, they're in a rush. And then when you are ready, they're not ready. And so you'll need to be a little patient during this year. When it comes to relationships, and specifically new love, it's interesting because the two rulers are in the same sign. This is Venus and Mercury, but they are not in orb, and they may, they're going to get closer, but Mercury is a very fast planet, and so it's hard to catch. And so what you're going to find is that things are not necessarily connecting this time, that you might, leave a message and then they don't call you back, or that, you're finding that you're kind of like two ships passing in the night. Like you say, I have time on Tuesday, but they're going to be across town, and you're willing to go there, but then they have to be at a different location, stuff like that. So this is, there's some connections happening, but it's not strong enough to make this easy. So a little bit of work is going to be necessary. When it comes to existing relationships, there's a lot of communication going on between the two of you, but not a lot of agreement. And that is that you're starting to work through the process. I see an agreement coming, on some big stuff you're doing. That's coming down the road, but it's not quite here yet. And so this might be that you're talking about moving or buying a house together, or moving to a foreign country, or, maybe it's something, smaller, like whether you should go back to school next year and how that would affect your partner and, your lifestyle in general. So again, you're just starting the conversation process. I don't see it resolving over the next 2 weeks, but you're getting closer. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Mercury, which is going to go direct in just a few days. And so delays that were on your money are now going to free up. And so right now, right at the beginning, the first week of this 2-week period, there might be a little lull for you. And so sometimes this makes, Taurus a little nervous, because you like steady, you like it always to be flowing in, but money's more like the ocean, where it tends to go out sometimes and then it comes in, and there can be lulls in the waves, and this is potentially one of those lulls. Now, it's also quite possible you're doing the exact opposite of that, where you are flat out so busy and so booked that you're wishing for the lull, which would then come in the second week of the 2-week period. And then you'll be scrambling to say, hey, why am I getting a lull now? So but you're doing one side or the other of this extreme. And so just recognize that it will balance out as Mercury comes up to speed in a few days or, about a week. When it comes to business income or investments done in a traditional manner, Mercury's making a semi-square to Jupiter, which means that you've got to take a road that is a little or a lot outside your comfort zone. That is, you have to go do some things you don't necessarily want to do, and when you do, you get success. And that might be really digging down and learning about the investments that you're working on rather than just handing it to a broker, or going through with your accountant over the books to see what's really going on with your business. So there's a focus at this time of really kind of a little bit of an uphill climb, and it's not that comfortable, but as you do, then you see the opportunities. When it comes to money from your career, the energy is much easier as Mercury is doing a sextile to Neptune. And so if you are willing to take an action, then good things happen. So taking an action would be asking for the raise, hinting about the raise, joking about the raise, like whatever you can do to get the conversation started, then good things can happen after that. This also says that there is some good energy if you're looking for a job and doing some salary negotiations. This new moon's right in your house of, career, so you have the opportunity to get a new job if you want one. Now, finally, when it comes to investments done in a risky fashion, things that take a lot of time or energy to get going, or any sort of gambling or speculation, Mercury is still retrograde at the beginning of this chart, and that means that you are carrying some of that energy. Now, that means if you have done something successful in the past, especially on a previous retrograde, you have a chance of making something at this time. But if you have lost in the past, you are then facing another loss. So be very careful. And, as you are looking at the data, make sure that you're looking at it in an objective way, that you're not just sugarcoating things, because this Mercury is not going to be retrograde for this entire time. So there is going to be a shift of energy coming, but it's not right away. Okay, Gemini natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of spirituality, of your inner code, your inner rules, as well as education and legal matters. And so this is what is lit up for you. This is where you need to break free. Now, that could mean that you are focusing on finishing up school, finishing up a legal matter, or, actually getting more involved in your spiritual life. Now, Saturn is with this new moon, and so it does mean that there's a little effort needed up front. And so that could be, to lean in and really work on your studies and pull your grades up, or, really dazzle them with a report or things like that, talking to your attorney about the legal matters and what you can get done there. But I think most of this is about, working at incorporating spirituality into your life. And that might mean getting up an hour early so that you can do a meditation, or that you can take a walk and talk to the universe. Or maybe that is that you're going to feng shui the house, and so you are going to shift furniture and declutter. So there is effort needed, but when you take the time to do the effort, fabulous things can happen in these areas. Where we see you speaking with force and intensity is in this area of resources from others, and that means if somebody owes you money, it's likely you're going to have a chat with them. This is also a good time to talk to your accountant, your broker, your insurance agent, and make changes in that area. This may also be that you're talking to your family and discussing what you guys should be doing with your finances. And so this could be the time where you really put yourself on track for, staying on budget, for saving for the future, or making a large purchase that is an investment. When we look at the tiger energy for you, there's a lot of harmony going on because the tiger energy is a very dual nature, and that's your wheelhouse. You're good at shifting and being able to adapt to a changeable environment. And so when things are moving very quickly and everybody's very excited, you're feeling at home. And when there's downtime and everything's quiet, you're fine too. So I think that you could really excel during this time of the tiger year. I think you're going to enjoy the kind of up and down of the energy, and certainly it's going to appeal to your desire for variety in your life. When it comes to relationships and specifically new love, your house of intimacy is very strong, and so it's possible to meet someone for a very quick physical relationship. But Venus and Mercury they're in the same sign, but they're not close enough to be talking to each other. So what it feels like is that everything's at a little bit of a distance, and that can be even when you're with someone, you feel that they're a little bit elsewhere, or maybe your mind is elsewhere, and so there's not the strongest connection going on for new love right now, except, as I said before, if you want a physical relationship, that's going to be easier to find. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Mercury is making a semi-square to Jupiter, and this means that things are a little contentious between the two of you, but if you sit down and talk it out, then it's wonderful. Then rainbows and unicorns run by. I mean, things get really good, but you have to get over this little hurdle. There's something that needs to be discussed, and maybe you're holding back, although you're the Gemini, so probably not. You probably want to discuss it, and maybe the other person is not ready to discuss it, or maybe you're talking at each other, but not really using a vocabulary each understands. And so again, I'm going to put this on you to say, you're the adaptable one. You need to make a shift and look at different ways of communicating what it is you need to get what you want. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that new moon that is lit up in your house of the world. And that means that it might be beneficial for you to look at import-export businesses or reaching customers or clients in other countries or in other locations. It is also about looking at education to bring you more knowledge about making money. Maybe that is finishing up a course that you already purchased but you haven't finished, or that you are maybe you're working on courses to sell, and so you need to finish those up. This also is, though, about your inner rules, and that is, do you have like an upper limit that you never cross? Like every time you make more than that, you start to self-sabotage. There's a good book on this topic. I'll leave a link to that in the description, where he talks about how to break through that upper limit and stop self-sabotage behavior. When it comes to money from your business, a family business, or from, passive income sources, that would be like rents or royalties, residuals, other R words, or investments done in a traditional manner. Everything's lined up really nicely for you this time. I really see you making more money than usual. That's because we have Mars, Venus, Mercury, Pluto in that house, plus the moon is conjuncting Saturn. So everything is lined up in probably the best way we've seen it, well, certainly for the whole year. You are going to get other good periods during the year, but this is one of the best. And so you need to ask for the sale. You need to, submit your invoices, look at your investments, see where you can take profits. This could be quite a profitable period for you. Now, when it comes to getting money from your job, and so money derived from career, now we see a little bit of a bumpy road, but there is still an opportunity. And so there is an aspect, but it's a semi-sextile. Semi-sextile means that there's an irritation about it. Like maybe you've already asked the boss a couple of times and you have to ask one more time. Maybe, they say, oh, we can't give you the full amount, but we'll give you 25% of the amount. So there's something that's not great about it, but there is still, a little tiny pot of gold at the end of this rainbow. and it's not even a rainbow, like it's a climb. So we're seeing some possibilities, maybe getting more hours, and therefore you get more paycheck, but you had to work the extra hours. So things are just slightly good, not great. When it comes to investments done in a risky manner, or some sort of gambling or speculation, or where you're putting a lot of time and energy into making something happen, again, we're having that bumpy road aspect, the semi-sextile, and that means that you're having to do a bunch of little things that you don't really enjoy. And maybe that is, like maybe you're trying to invest in alt currencies, altcoins, and yet you have to, set up the account and find the way to get the money into the account, and then figure out what kind of wallet that you need and where you're going to keep the password. Like, there's a bunch of little steps you need to do, but at the end of those, then there is some sort of reward. So, and again, the reward's smaller. This energy is going to line up better in the future, but you might as well get those little things done now, because you're going to need to do them at some point. Okay, Cancer, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of money from other people. So, and it's more than that too. It's resources and intimacy, etc. But, on this channel, we tend to focus on money. So then this is your opportunity to get what is owed you. And that starts with how deserving you feel. And if you don't feel deserving, then you need to work on that. We talked about that in the introduction. But if others are saying you're not deserving, it is time to challenge that, to say, why are you saying that? What are the things that I can do to make a difference? So looking at it from both sides is important. Now, because this area is lit up, there is opportunities for you to bring in extra money, and that is generally from passive income sources. So this is a time to start looking around for different ways of making money. Yes, a passive income source means there's going to be some upfront work. That is indicated by the Saturn conjunction here. That is, there's going to be a learning curve. Maybe you have to put a structure in place, some sort of framework. Maybe you have to, build something like a course or a website. But you do that and you set something in motion. So, and that is, if you're willing to climb, if you're willing to do that hard work, some real benefits can come to you. Now, this is also about where you are needing to break free, and this is in your area of debt. And so this is about looking at how you can get debts paid off more quickly, how you can get interest rates lowered, and maybe that is going and talking to your bank about a consolidation loan, like avoid those fly-by-nights, not very ethical type of companies, but go with a real bank. Or, talk to friends and family about suggestions they have. Maybe there's some sort of credit counseling that you can do. So looking at the different options, again, all of this not fun, sounds hard, but brings amazing results. Where we see you speaking with force and intensity and determination is in your area of relationships. And that's all kinds of relationships, not just love relationships. This is partnerships, business collaborations, mentors, people who you have a contentious problem with. All of those people, you now have a voice. You are able to state what it is that you need, and if they are unwilling, you can push them aside and move forward anyway. So it's very important that you have your voice about what it is that you want and need at this time. And I know that there's going to be, because this house is filled with positive energy, that there's going to be lots of people who step up and say, oh, I didn't know you needed that. And then they are ready to help you. But there will be some where they're not willing, and your intensity and your voice here can get them to move aside as you say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to deal with somebody who's not going to be in a collaboration or in a partnership with me, and they will move aside, and then you'll have a clear road forward. Now, when we look at the energy for the Tiger year is this kind of bouncing sort of, Tigger the tiger, bounce, 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 bounce. And that you might find a little bit irritating. So the people around you might be a little frenetic. They might be bouncing off the walls while you are feeling much more calm and kind of stepping aside and observing what they're doing. But you will get in harmony with this energy as we move forward because you're very intuitive. But in the beginning, you might find the tiger energy a little irritating. When it comes to relationships, specifically new love, you look like you're meeting a lot of people, but it's not quite lining up. So that is, I think you're starting the communication maybe by text or by phone, but it's hard to meet the person over the next 2 weeks. I think there's going to be some near misses, like you try to get something scheduled and then one or both of you have to cancel, or, maybe the weather is keeping you from getting outside, or other circumstances in the world are keeping you locked up. So this is, I don't mean locked up in a bad way, but just wanting to stay home. So this is energy that I see is growing and getting better, but right now, over this next 2 weeks, I think it's just good to meet the person by phone or by Zoom and then save the in-person meeting for a future date. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, it's a completely different story. Things really could come together in such a positive way. You look like you are having deep conversations about subjects that maybe you struggled with in the past, but now you're finding a meeting of the minds. You may find that your partner is more receptive to what you have to say, that they are stepping up, that they are really trying. And so the two of you could get closer together. You seem more like a united front when there's external issues like dealing with teenagers, or, if you're negotiating something for a business together. So you have really good energy, probably some of the best that you've seen in a while. And this is not the last of the good energy for you by any means, but this is one of the strongest periods you've had in months. And so this is a time to really, get together and talk about some of the harder questions that maybe you've had to put off in the past. When it comes to home and family, now there is some kind of bumpy energy, and so it feels like there's something that's not quite working right at home, and this is really kind of throwing everybody into a little bit of some chaos. Not like bad chaos, but like it's just disruptive. And this might mean that there are some power problems, or the heater comes on and off at the wrong time, or the thermostat's not working right. Maybe a neighbor's being very noisy, or maybe weather is keeping you in when you wanted to go out. So there's some irritations that do need your attention. It's really wise at this time, because you do have a strong house of resources, to look at how you are prepared for things, like do you have extra water and extra food in the house? Do you have, a backup charger for your phone? Stuff like that will really go a long way to smooth out this bumpy road. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money right from that sun in the house of resources from others, which means that bankers and brokers and people who have money are more receptive to hearing your needs. And that is if you're looking for money for a business, if you are doing a GoFundMe project or Kickstarter, if you're doing Patreon, you have more of a chance of bringing in opportunities. Now, that sun is conjunct that Saturn, and that means you have to put the work in. You have to turn in an application that is basically perfect, perfect penmanship, or all the boxes are filled in. The better you do on these types of things, the better your results are going to be. Now, because the sun is there, you're going to get some results no matter what you do, but if you want the best results, you have to put the work in. When it comes to your money from traditional investments, or investments done in a traditional manner, or from passive income sources or business income, The energy's great. So the sun's making a square to Uranus. They're both in money houses. You have this opportunity to take quick, almost unexpected action and get some major results. And so that is that you're not doing a risky investment, but you are taking more of a personal risk, maybe asking for the sale or maybe moving forward on a project. And because all your ducks are in a row, they're lined up, everything goes off and you get the results. So what we see is it's quite likely you'll be making more money over the next 2 weeks than usual. Now, when it comes to money from your career or a job, like a paycheck, now it's still there, but is not as great an aspect, which means that you might be asking the boss for the third time where your promotion is, why isn't the raise in your account, or when can you sit down and talk about it? But when you do, then good things happen. So it is like doing some small little irritating thing and then you get the results. So it's kind of like if you, I was kind of picturing like trying to open a can that's really hard to open, but inside the can something delicious. So I don't know. There's no canned things that I can think of that are delicious. So it's a poor metaphor. But it is the idea of having to do something that's slightly outside the comfort zone, something you feel that you probably shouldn't have to do, but if you do it, you get good results. Now, when it comes to risky investments, gambling, speculation, or things that take a lot of time and energy to get going, the sun's not lined up with Pluto at this time, and so everything is kind of on hold, which means that this is a time to do study and research or to continue working on whatever it is you're working on, but not expect the big results yet. And this is kind of like where I know it can try your patience, where you feel like you've been working for a long time on something and why isn't it bringing results? But this is a time to maybe look and see what you can tweak, what you can improve to make things go better. And so it's not like back to the drawing board, but it is about taking a step back and looking at what the mechanics are of what you're expecting to make from this and seeing if there's some different route you're supposed to take. Okay, Leo, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of relationships, partnerships, collaborations, anything where you're coming together with others. And that's what's highlighted. So if you have been like a one-man show, you are, trying to do everything online, not even being on camera, this energy is kind of counter that. This says, find someone you can collaborate with, even if you're just going to be on their podcast or have them on your podcast. Reach out to someone that you're interested in going out with. Reach out to someone who you haven't spoken to in a while and make a connection. Now, it's possible you don't want to do any of that because Saturn is involved in this new moon. And that does say that you are taking a road that perhaps you don't really like to do. But remember that as hard as Saturn is, Saturn builds something. Saturn is that effort of taking one brick and putting it on top of another until the building is built. And while that is tedious and sometimes, from a Leo perspective, feels like it's beneath you, there is some value in building the building. And so when this says building relationships, making connections, making them real, making them beyond just the hi, how are you doing, or pushing the little like button, making them something that has substance to it can really benefit you at this time. Now, where we see you speaking with force and determination and intensity is in your job. And that is, you might be called to lead a meeting. You might be speaking to the CEO, like maybe you're trapped in an elevator with the person. And so you have an opportunity to talk. Perhaps you are talking to coworkers and really speaking your mind. And then this is also in your area of routines, and where you would speak with intensity is to yourself. And that doesn't mean berating yourself. I don't think that we can cultivate good habits if we're just being mean to ourselves and telling ourselves, like we're not disciplined or we're lazy or any of that. I don't think that's motivating. But I think that there are ways that you can use words, language itself, to motivate yourself to do the things that are really, really helpful, or just to look at why you keep procrastinating on them and what is it that you procrastinate on the most. So this energy can unlock secrets, reveal parts of you that you weren't aware of, that then now become under your power and control, and you're able then to create the life you want. Now, when it comes to the year of the tiger energy is somewhat compatible with your Leo energy. I mean, you are both big cats, right? So there is an innate understanding of this idea of the dual nature of, like run after the prey, accomplish something big and then sit back and rest for a little bit. So you have an understanding of that energy. But the difference here is that here is the tiger, very territorial, and you yourself are quite territorial. So when somebody crosses the line with you, you might feel a little contentious. Otherwise, I think that you'll do fine with this energy because, as I said, you understand that nature of moving quickly when an opportunity presents itself, but most of the time, staying back until everything lines up. When it comes to love relationships, especially a new love, you look like you're meeting a lot of people, but everybody, there's like something not quite right in every single person, and so like other people are going to look at your love life and go, wow, look at, you're attracting, these attractive people, they're interesting and all that, but you might say, yeah, but they like a different football team than I like, or, they want to go jogging and I rather do Pilates, or, things, there's just slight differences, and you're having a little trouble maybe of coming together and finding a way to do things you both like, or finding things that are mutual. But if you work at it a little bit, you could have a really great love connection because your house of relationships is lit up. So consider, if you feel like, well, I don't know if I want to date this person because they're not quite right, try dating them anyway, at least for a few times, to see if there's something underneath that you didn't see on the surface. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, now the energy is extremely strong. And this means that if this relationship trajectory was heading for something that was more solid, like, moving in together, getting engaged, getting married, it's definitely heading in that direction. But if we're heading towards the rocks, then you are really aggressively heading towards the rocks. And if you want to stop that, you need to change course. So this is it's energy that comes together with such excitement or so much contention that there is this kind of explosion. And that explosion can be fireworks of joy and love and happiness, or fireworks that say, okay, pack your bags, you're out of here. So you're kind of walking a little tightrope. You will know which way this is going to go by how it's been over the last few weeks. If you're heading for happy shores, then that's where you're going to land. When it comes to home and family, there's a little bit of a disconnect going on, and I think that's because you seem pulled out of the house. You're doing more things, you are busy at work, there's just not a lot of time or energy to be spent on the home, and that is, maybe the whole family's scattered to the four winds, everybody's going different directions. Maybe the house is, you just don't have time to work on the house, so it might get a little messy. You might find that it's just not a priority this time. So this energy is going to line up in the future, but right now, if you're trying to get something done about the house, like you're moving or something, then focus the energy on enlisting help and focus the energy on relationships rather than just the house, and then the house stuff will get done. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Mercury that is just about to go direct. So right now, money stuff has been delayed, and it continues to be delayed at least for another week. So that is that there's no reason to even put pressure on people for at least a few days, because they can't get whatever it is that you need. So, but it does say that you should continue to, market your business, or, do, sales if you're in a sales job, because when this energy does free up, then it can come flooding back in, and then the lull is over. So that's really good. Now, if on the other hand, you have been experiencing high activity for this last few days up until the time of this new moon, then that high energy will continue, and it will be followed next week by a lull. So it depends on which side of the pendulum you're on. You could be in the lull now, you could be at the high extreme now, but where you're not is in the middle, where everything's just even and flowing in nicely. You're on one side or the other. When it comes to money from traditional investments or investments done in a traditional manner, or your business, you're doing some good energy. Jupiter is in this house now. Mercury's making a sextile to Neptune. So things are lined up quite nicely for you to make some profits. So it's a good idea to push. Now you have a very full house of work, and so right now you're super busy. You are having some possible collaborations with people, a mentor, new customers. So there's tons of different people that you could meet that could be really helpful for you. So you want to lean in. When it comes to money from your career, now you have been dealing with the Mercury retrograde, so promises and promises. Now that Mercury is almost stationary, so it means that nothing's moving in this area. Things won't be freed up for a while. It'll be at least a week, but probably outside the 2-week period before you see any sort of results. And that's probably that you can't even get the boss to sit down and talk with you, because either they're so busy or they're out of town. So this is not the area to be pushing in at this time. When it comes to risky investments, and these are like gambling, speculation, or things that take a lot of time and energy to get going, like writing a novel or trying to produce an album, Mercury's making a semi-square to Jupiter. Now, this is a tough aspect, but when you do the energy, then you get the benefits. So that is that there's not just a hurdle in front of you, but it's like a pole vault. It's a high hurdle that you're going to have to do, and you need to weigh the risk versus reward before you try to scale that. And what that means is maybe you're ready to launch your novel, but you don't have all the publicity in place. You don't have a mailing list to send to. Maybe you need to do that first, or maybe the timing's just not right. Like you're finished and you want to launch, but maybe it would be better to launch in a month or 2 months, because then people are interested in the topic. And it's the same with your riskier investments. If you are doing some sort of speculation or gambling, then you want to be aware that there's some big hurdle that you need to do, and maybe that's the research or a deeper understanding or new connections. Something is there, and when you have that in place, then things go well. Okay, Virgo, you guys are doing this new moon, lighting up your house of routines, health and well-being, and your work. And so this is what's highlighted for you. This is probably what's going to be on your mind, like how to get up at a time that you think is reasonable, how to get to bed at a reasonable time, how to eat healthy, how to get exercise into your busy day, and whether you want to stay at your job. Now, this is where you're wanting to break free, and so we do see there's a possibility that you might be looking at your job and thinking that you want a different job, and that is quite possible at this time. Not exactly at this time, because your career is ruled by Mercury, which is retrograde. So we need Mercury to start moving forward and then pick up speed. So maybe towards the end of this 2-week period, you're going to be in a better spot for looking for a new job. But it's really helpful to activate that Mercury retrograde energy when you're doing things for your health, specifically in implementing good habits. And the reason I say that is because if you do something during Mercury retrograde, you're bound to repeat it. So let's say you pick up the habit of flossing every night and you do it during Mercury retrograde, and then you stop doing it for a few months, but then Mercury retrograde comes back around and you go back to that habit, and then after a while, you're doing it all the time. So, and I want to mention right here that myself and another astrologer, Tammy Margaro, we put together a book on the retrograde energy for 2022. So there's a link in the description if you want to check that out. Now, this new moon is with Saturn. So there is some sort of hurdle or difficulty that you have to overcome, and then things go really well. So when this comes to the job, it may be that there's a difficult coworker and you're going to have to work something out, maybe through communication or talking to your boss or changing departments. Maybe they have a new system that you have to learn, and so you have to get over that hurdle of the learning curve. It is also possible that this is around habits and health routines. And when it comes to habits, the Saturn could be that it's just hard to go to bed on time. It's hard to get up early. And maybe it is because you have kids, and so you're so busy with the kids that you don't get to bed on time. And so, but if you can solve this problem, then things go really, really well. This is also about health routines, and that is if you do the hard thing, which is maybe giving up sugar, eating your vegetables, drinking more water, then you get these incredible benefits. So the results are fabulous, but there's a hill in the way, and you have to climb the hill. Where we see you speaking with force and intensity is in your area of children, creativity, as well as doing things that a person might consider risky. And so starting with that is you looking at a true risk assessment of yourself and recognizing that as you have grown and experienced many different things, that your circle of what makes you feel comfortable has expanded. Well, hopefully. If it hasn't, make that a priority so that you can be more comfortable with speaking in front of audiences. And then if you're comfortable with that, speak in front of a bigger audience. And if you're comfortable with that, start picturing an auditorium, or if it's about your creativity, maybe you're putting out your art on your blog and then you put it on your Etsy shop, and then you are going from door to door to different art galleries and talking about your art. So, and when it comes to your kids, this is probably it's time to have a conversation with one or more of the children about what's going on. And so that might mean that there's some serious parenting stuff that's happening. Maybe you're telling a kid that, they need to get a job, or that they need to buckle down on their studies, or that this is just about, the respect that you have for each other, and that a different form of communication is necessary at this time. Now, when we're looking at the tiger energy for you for this year, this energy is rather disruptive, and that can feel a little irritating. However, you are highly adaptable. You are very good at taking circumstances and improving things. So what you're going to find is that things and people around you are a bit chaotic. They're not organized. They seem to be jumping into things. And there may be some desire for you to follow suit. But in general, what you're going to find is as they are, kind of disrupting everything, you're going to find great opportunities in the wake. That is that, they start a project and you can then, jump in the middle and really get some great benefits because they blaze the trail. So I think what you're going to find is if you can get past the initial irritation of people not planning and not listening and just jumping in, you're going to find there's some great opportunities for you in 2022. Now, when it comes to relationships, specifically new love, you have a lot of opportunities, but the energy isn't lined up to actually meet in person. So I think there's a lot of texting going on, a lot of connections by email or direct message. You might even be talking on the phone, but maybe they're traveling, maybe your schedule is booked, maybe you're blanketed in snow. There's something that's holding back the actual meeting, and that's good because you want to wait until the energy does line up, and it will line up in the future. But right now, this is more about starting conversation with more than one person for a new relationship, and then seeing how the conversation goes, and then in a couple of weeks you can decide who it is you want to meet. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, the energy is very compatible. So Mercury is making a sextile to Neptune, Jupiter is in that house. So there's more of an opportunity to come together in a harmonious way than there has been in a long time. So that means that whatever's going on at home, you can count on each other more than you have in the past. And that means you're strengthening this love relationship. Now, it is a sextile, which means you need to initiate the action. So you need to start by giving a little or suggesting something or moving this forward. But then you're going to find more cooperation on the other side. When it comes to home life, there is some contentious energy, which is kind of in harmony with what we were saying about this forceful communication in the area of children. So you're doing a semi-square between Mercury and Jupiter, and this is that there's some sort of thing that needs to be worked out, and then things are fine. But it's if you are avoiding having a discussion because you think it's going to lead to an argument, or if you are in an argument, you need to find an off-ramp for a way that everybody can save face, where you can find some sort of compromise. And as you do, then things get better and better. But right now it looks fairly contentious. Now, this also could be contentious energy with the home itself, and that would mean that something is broken, it's not working, and so there's frustration there. This could be something to do with heat or something because it's fiery. So, but this actually, I shouldn't say that because it's also water involved. And so that's what I was thinking first, and then I went to fire. But so it's possible this is like water heater, but also, watch like toilet overflowing, sink backed up. So we see the emotional side, but I do get a heat thing too. So again, could be water heater. Now, when it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Venus, which is now moving forward. And so money opportunities are really starting to flow in. It is requiring you to step a little bit outside your comfort zone, which is good for you. You have so much talent, so much ability, but you do tend to like to stay where you can cover everything. And so we just want you to go slightly beyond that, like not super overpromise, but just push yourself a little bit, and you're going to get some really great results. This is especially in the area of like creative endeavors. So, leaning into that, or taking any sort of leadership role where you're in charge of the team, or you are, in the front of the room and, telling people what to do. When it comes to money from traditional investments done in a traditional manner, or passive income sources, as well as business income, the energy is great. Venus is conjunct Mars, so you have an opportunity to get the money that's out here into your bank account. That means that you can get the sale, that you can find great investments, that you can cash in on some things. So this is the time to consider doing your Kickstarter campaign, or going to the banker and ask for lower interest rates, or find the angel investor. This is really a great time to move forward on these sort of financial areas so that you can reduce debt and increase savings, and especially working on your passive income sources, finding ways to get affiliate income or residual income or royalties, money like that. Now, when it comes to money derived from your career, like a paycheck, there's a little bumpy road and then a pot of gold. So the bumpy road is that it may be tough to track your boss down to get a meeting, or the boss might hem and haw, or tell you that there are external delays. But if you push a little bit, you don't have to push a lot, but you push a little bit, you can get some good results. And this could be more hours because you do look like you're working quite a lot. And so it's possible that that's kind of the string that's attached. But it's also possible that you just need to kind of corner this person and sit down with them. And then they say begrudgingly a little bit, but yes, oh, you really do deserve a raise. And I'm going to put that raise in. So I do see more money if you will take that one little step, that little slightly irritating step that you didn't want to do, but you take that and that can lead to some benefits. Now, when it comes to risky investments like gambling, speculation, investments done in a very risky manner, or doing something that takes a lot of time and energy, like you do a lot of prep or on spec work and then hope to have it work, you show that there's results coming in, but they're smaller than you were hoping for. So I do see you making a little more than usual, but not a lot. And so this might be that, like sales are starting to dribble in from your Etsy shop, or book royalties are starting to come in from this, mammoth book that you wrote that took so long. So things are starting to happen, but you're going to have to lean in and do a little bit more work on it. So because of this irritating and small win energy, this is not a great time to, try the tables at Vegas, because the wins are going to be so small. So this is, like one win and then you give a bunch back, and then one win, give a bunch back. So it's not lined up super great, but if you're in a long-term project, then keep working at it. But if you're at the line ready to roll the dice, this is not the week for that. I should have said it's not the 2 weeks for that. Okay, Libra, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of creativity, romance, adventure, and where you're going to take risks. And so this is what's getting lit up and where you could be breaking free. And breaking free here, not breaking free so much out of a romantic relationship, but maybe freeing yourself to be in one. This could also mean that you are breaking free of limitations for doing art or music, where you are really focusing on expressing yourself as an individual. You could also be looking at where you have been afraid or hesitant about something and then breaking through that. Now, Saturn is with this new moon, and so this means that there is some sort of uphill climb. There's some hard work to do. So maybe it's that you are feeling it's time to double down on your artwork or your channel or whatever it is that makes you really just light up with joy. Maybe you have to put the work in right now. And it could be the same for a relationship. Maybe it's time for you to focus on how you can make yourself better for a relationship and improve the relationship itself. And this is more about the dating part, the fun parts of it. So, and that's maybe just thinking of some fun things to do that perhaps, keep you away from large crowds or doesn't cost a lot of money. There's also here energy about fertility and kids. And so that is that there could be some sort of breakthrough in this area with the children or in fertility, but also that there's going to be some work involved. So that's where the Saturn comes in, to not fear that uphill, to understand that that's what creates growth. Where we see you speaking with force and intensity and conviction is in the area of home and family. So you may be saying something to another family member about where you stand on something, or that you are with the family united, speaking to those who are outside the family. And that could be maybe a landlord situation, or maybe you're buying a house and so you're doing some negotiations, or maybe you're repairing the house and so you're talking to contractors or people who are supplying you with stuff and help. Now, this it's interesting because you have a lot of good planets in this area of home and family. So it may not be so much contentious with family members, but more that you just need to be very clear about what it is that you want. And that helps them be clear about what they want, and maybe some then compromise can be reached. Now, when we look at the energy of Tiger for Libras, this is actually pretty compatible energy. So Tiger is big on communication and doing new things and meeting people, and Libra can be that as well. And so I think you're going to find that the Tiger energy brings you more opportunities than the Ox year 2021 did. And I think that you're going to feel more comfortable taking those opportunities than you have in the past. So when it comes to relationships, and specifically new love, as we were already saying, the energy is quite good. Plus, Venus is making a trine to Uranus, so there's a lot of opportunity coming together for making something happen. So meeting somebody new and maybe getting into a relationship, an actual relationship, pretty quickly, rather than just going back and forth and dating or texting. There's more about getting serious in a relationship very fast, and not because you're rushing in, but because you can see that there's real quality here between the two of you, shared history or shared experiences, and that you just feel like you mesh. When it comes to existing love relationships, it's also really good. Venus is making a conjunction to Mars, and so this makes you feel like you're kind of two peas in a pod, like you know each other, you finish each other's sentences, you're more of a united front. And that really helps because those two planets are sitting in your area of home and family. So this could be that you and your partner are united and you're needing to express yourselves to members outside of the household. And, that could be in-laws or cousins or, just other people who are related or connected to the family. And now you can be united either to move your cause forward or to stand strong together. When it comes to home and family, we've already talked a little bit about that energy. Venus is making a semi-sextile to Saturn, and so there are some small irritants going on. And these are things that possibly need some repair or just some cleanup. Something that you can handle if you have the time, but who has the time these days? And these things may be cropping up just to irritate you, or a family member's past behavior that you thought was done is now back. Again, it's not interrupting your life. It's just a small irritant that seems to be making daily life a little less fun, but not unbearable. So it's not that positive, is it? Not unbearable. I mean, I don't mean it to sound that bad. It's actually fine. It is this aspect of like having a mosquito bite and you don't want to scratch it. It's that sort of irritant. After a while, you just ignore it. When we look at your money, you are pulling money from both that Pluto and Mars, both in Capricorn, both in your house of foundations and home and family. This also includes real estate. So real estate may be on your mind, and that might be, anything from buying property, buying land to build someday, or getting a roommate, doing an Airbnb, or maybe you are thinking about utilizing your current home to run a business. So there's all these different options. It's also possible that you are considering maybe hiring a family member and bringing them on board to help you expand your business, or you might start working for a family member. So there's a lot of energy about togetherness and focus. Now, where the money draw from your foundation comes in, that is to find the things that you really love to do, the things that just, where you get into the flow, where you lose a track of time, those sort of things. That's the basis, that's the foundation of who you are. Those sort of things are also big money draws for you at this time. When it comes to traditional investments or investments done in a traditional manner, that would be things like dollar cost averaging or buy and hold. Or if we're talking about business income, family business income, or passive income sources, Venus is not making an aspect with Pluto at the moment. at the moment, because they are going to come together. Now, they are in the same sign, they're in the same house, so there's some compatibility. It's just like the money is out there, but it hasn't quite reached you yet. Now, I say this at the same time that Venus is conjunct the Mars, but Venus is moving away from the Mars. And so what you have is kind of like there's money coming in right at the beginning of the 2-week period, and I think at the very end of the 2-week period it's coming in, but there's a little bit of a gap in the middle. And I could be wrong about this. You might have consistent strong income throughout, with the peaks being on either side. So overall, I think you're going to make more money than usual over this 2-week period, especially business income, but there's some little gyrations or fluctuations in the amount. And so if this is like if you see clients, perhaps you have a little lull in between where that Venus just sits exactly out of orb of these two planets. But otherwise, I mean, you really can't beat this because, as we said before, everybody's in the same house, or everybody's in the same sign, so we're talking to each other, and any delays that happen are very temporary. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, the Sun is not making an aspect with Pluto, but it is making a semi-sextile to Mars. It's a little on the wide side, and the semi-sextile is not the best aspect, so I wouldn't recommend going into your boss to say, hey, give me a raise, because you're just going to be irritated when you leave. However, if your boss does come to you and starts a conversation about giving you more responsibilities or giving you more hours, this is a good time to plant a seed. And it's just really a seed that you're planting, because the results you're going to get from really pushing at this time are going to be so small that it isn't really worth it. These two planets will line up better as we go on in the year. So right now, if the opportunity presents itself, you might get something, but you may want to hold back and wait for it to be a home run. Okay, when it comes to risky investments, and this is gambling or speculation or investments done in a risky manner, and that would be like shorting a stock or doing some sort of strange option. So, or doing anything that takes you a lot of time on spec, like writing a novel or working on your acting career. So, yeah, that was a long way to say this is the risky investment part. So Pluto is not making an aspect to Uranus, but Mars is. And I had to look, Mars is a trine to Uranus. So we have some really positive energy. Also, the new moon is there, and with Saturn, which does say that if you put the work in, some benefits could happen. And that is, if you have an audition, like do extra, really work hard at it, really give 110%. If you are getting into a risky investment, do look at your decision making, look at why you're choosing to do it now, what's the downside, really know your stuff. So, and if you do that, the Mars trine Uranus, is that what I said? Yeah, Mars trine Uranus, that's actually can facilitate a big win for you. So do be careful these are called risky investments for a reason, so they're always a long shot, but the energy is more lined up than usual. Okay, Scorpio, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of home, family, real estate, foundations, ancestors, etc. And so this is what's lit up, and this is where the breakthrough shows up. And so the breakthrough may be you breaking a family pattern, and that is possibly you've spotted a family pattern and now you realize that you don't have to follow that anymore. This also could be that there might be some contentious energy, especially with older relatives, because Saturn is involved. And this also may be that there is some changes going on at home, and this is dealing with someone who is an authority figure. That could be a landlord or someone in the community who has some authority over your property for some reason. So, and that could be, like the city doing construction in your area, or needing to, trim the trees around your power lines or something in that sort of fashion. So this is about this kind of more physical energy for sure. But there's also the breakthrough coming here emotionally. And that means that maybe, some discussion you've been having with an older relative now starts to flow your way, where a person might have been saying no, 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 and now saying maybe, or even getting a yes. And all of this is predicated on you working at it, to give it your full attention, to say to yourself, what can I do? How can I do this differently to get a yes? Now, where we see you speaking with force and intensity and really effectively is in your area of communication. So that's fantastic. So that means that contracts that come in, you'll be able to spot what needs to be changed. You'll be able to determine whether the contract's in your favor or not. You'll be able to present contracts to other people and get them to sign it. So that's really good. So paperwork, like taming the paper tiger, you can do that right now. That is excellent. But this also says that you have more control over your own thinking at this time, and maybe that's through meditation or journaling, but you are starting to recognize that you don't have to have negative thoughts. You don't have to always be berating yourself. You could shift towards the positive, and when you do, you'll find your productivity skyrockets, your level of happiness goes up. Things get very much better when you have, when you release negative thinking, first of all, but also when you recognize you're in control of these thoughts. Now, when we look at the year of the tiger for Scorpios, the energy is a little bit contentious because the tiger is much more of a happy-go-lucky sort of fly by the seat of your pants sort of energy than Scorpio generally likes. That doesn't mean you're going to have a difficult year, but it does mean you need to make some adjustments occasionally. And that is to shift your position at times to make sure that you can get the most out of this energy. That means that sometimes you're going to have to say yes when you may not be ready for it, or sometimes you'll have to say no to people who are extremely enthusiastic, and you'll have to say no to them a couple of times. So I think that what you're going to find is that in the wake of everything, like the tiger comes through and there's like fur flying and claws and all of that, when the tiger energy leaves, then you can scoop up opportunities. But trying to wrestle the tiger at this time, I think you're going to feel it's exhausting. So you might as well just stand back and wait for the opportunities, because they will become visible once the chaos and excitement dies down. When it comes to romantic relationships, like a new love, there's some very good energy happening here. Jupiter is now in Pisces in your house of romance, and it's the energies lined up where you can communicate your thoughts and feelings to somebody and reach them to really connect with them on a heart-to-heart level. So this is a great time for you to be out there looking around, seeing who you can meet, because I think you could find somebody who's a very interesting match. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, now the energy isn't quite lined up yet. So Venus is in the same sign as Pluto, and they're in the same house, but they're not actually speaking to each other. And so it's like you're two worlds apart. Like, you maybe you have your mind on work, but your partner's asking you about going to the grocery store, and so it doesn't really connect, and then you don't hear, and then later there's an argument. So it's that sort of energy of, the communication's a little bit off. Now you have a great house of communication right now, so you can make the adjustment. You can, come together and really connect. And I think that you will, because Venus is going to catch up to that Pluto, but you may not do it in this 2-week period. Now, when it comes to home and family, of course, the energy is quite good because you have the Sun, Moon, and Saturn. They're all together. So the Sun and Moon are there for the joy and the happiness, and the Saturn takes responsibility. And so that's a great combination. Plus, we see that Pluto is, I shouldn't say that. Pluto is not making an aspect with Uranus. But because, Sun and Moon are in Aquarius and ruled by the Uranus, like we have enough coming together here that I would say that you are going to have a good time. Maybe there are some changes going on at home that don't need to yet be handled, but you can see them on the horizon, and that might have you kind of feeling like, oh, like maybe next year we have to move, or in a few months I'm going to have to trim those trees, or, maybe one of your tenants is leaving in the next month or two. So there's something down the road, but I don't think it's within these 2 weeks. So I think it's pretty harmonious for the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from Jupiter, which is now in Pisces, and it's going to be in Pisces on and off for the year. Now, this is a really interesting thing because Pisces removes boundaries and Jupiter expands. So it's like everything, all the blocks are now dissolving. That means that either through your own realization and study that you are recognizing that there are so many different ways for you to make money, or that whatever was between you and that profit is going away. So I think that you have many opportunities, but the important thing is to stay aware that Pisces energy can drift. And it's just naturally has that luck to it. And so there's a feeling like, well, the money will just take care of itself. And that's fine. And it could, but that also doesn't help you amass money. And so if you want to really bring in money, you want to be looking for where the boundaries are disappearing, because that's going to open up new roads for you. When it comes to money from traditional investments or investments done in a traditional manner, also money from a business, home business, or from passive income sources, Jupiter's making a semi-square to Mercury, and this is a more challenging aspect. Now, it is an aspect, and I love to see an aspect because that means that the money that's out here can get into your account. But there is a hurdle, and that is that something is difficult. Something is like the person you need to get the money from is hard to reach, or that there's extra paperwork for you to fill out, or they want to do the money in some sort of transfer that you're not familiar with, and so you have to do some research. You need to go over this hurdle, and then there's benefit. Then something is, like there's the pot of gold. But, your hesitation could be that you're thinking, hey, Donna, there's not supposed to be obstacles here. Why is there obstacles for this when it's right there? And that's because this obstacle hasn't dissolved yet. So as all the blocks are going away, it may not be the exact one that you need at the moment. And so if that's the case, you either have to go over that hurdle or you have to go focus on a different source of income. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, you have even better energy because you're doing that semi-square that we were talking about, but you are also have that very strong communication house. So this means that you can go into the boss and state your case, and the boss is kind of say, well, you have been doing a really great job. You have performed beyond expectations. So of course we do need to give you a raise. This also means that looking for a new job is very good for you. You'll be able to negotiate for more money, maybe even a signing bonus. So again, these might be things that you don't like to do, that you don't want to draw so much attention to yourself. That's the hurdle. So, or maybe the boss is hard to reach and you got to nail them down. But this is a really good time where if you do that hard thing, you could get a real benefit. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that are like gambling, speculation, or traditional investments done in a very risky manner, and that would be like highly leveraged, like you're borrowing money to do an investment, or things that take a lot of time or energy to get going. There's no aspect going on right now between Neptune and Jupiter. However, they are in the same sign and they're in the same house. So you've got an opportunity to gain some profits in this area. Now, because it's there's some distance between these two, and that won't happen for too much longer. These two planets are going to line up, and when they do, you will have a much more direct access to making money through whatever the sources that you're thinking of. But right now, it's a little bit of a reach, so that means the money takes a long time to get to you, or that through fees or other expenses, it kind of gets smaller and smaller by the time it gets to you. So this isn't necessarily something to really push during this time. The energy's getting better, but it's just maybe not as strong as you would like. And as always, please be careful if doing risky investments, because it's not, especially with this chart, it's not the easiest way for you to make money. Okay, Sagittarius, you guys are doing this new moon, lighting up your house of communication, vehicles, siblings, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank here, neighbors, short distance travel, and then all the things about your internal thinking process. Now, this means that the breakthrough can come here, and that is that something may just occur to you and then everything kind of clicks into place. Have you ever had that thing where you get an epiphany and then suddenly you see things so differently in life? That's what can happen with this. There's also more contact, probably with siblings or neighbors. Maybe there is more communication with people in general, so your inbox gets really full. You're getting a lot of texts. Now, Saturn is with this new moon, and that does mean that you probably have a little extra work involved. And so, like with your vehicle, maybe it needs some TLC, maybe it needs some repair work done. And remember that Mercury is retrograde, and that can be a challenging time to do repair work. So I would definitely recommend that you get a warranty if that's at all possible. If you really need the vehicle, you can't necessarily wait till Mercury goes direct. And of course, Mercury will be direct in just a couple of days, so that will help. But if you are doing some sort of repair work during Mercury retrograde, it's great to see if you can get a warranty. And by the way, myself and another astrologer, Tammy Margaro, wrote a book on all of the retrogrades for 2022 and what the energy is about. And there's a link in the description. So going back to the new moon with Saturn, this means that you might be faced with a lot of communication, paperwork, maybe you're working on your taxes already. And so that's where the hard part is. That's where the hurdle is. And as you get that done, you feel fantastic. So because the Saturn leads to growth. It's the same thing with getting together with siblings. Maybe there is some sort of difficulty. Maybe you're at a distance, your schedules are hard. But when you come together, you talk about doing a business together or doing, like climbing Kilimanjaro together, some sort of Saturn thing, and then that makes it really good. Where you are speaking with force and intensity is in your area of money. And this means that maybe you are asking someone to pay a debt that they owe. Maybe you're asking for a raise. Maybe you are making sales. Or maybe you're talking to yourself about how you handle money and deciding that you are going to go on a path of more frugality, savings, trying for financial independence versus old habits of where, just having the money in your pocket was too tempting, and so you were spending. So your money house is really good, and so we'll be talking more about that in just a second. Now, when we look at the energy of the year of the tiger for Sagittarius, it's a really interesting sort of dance because you're quite powerful, you're quick thinking, and so is tiger energy. And so this is either like a match made in heaven or very contentious. And I think it will go back and forth, that sometimes you're going to run into people who you just click with that person and you start discussing big plans and changing the world, and you can get a business going or a relationship going really quickly. And sometimes it's going to be that you're just circling each other, eyeing each other, waiting for the other to make a move. And so there is this sort of back and forth sort of energy, which honestly, Sagittarius, you like a lot of adventure, so I think you're going to find this year is quite the adventure. When it comes to relationships, and specifically when it comes to new love, you're doing some very good energy. Jupiter is in a good place for connecting you with somebody new, someone who you have a spiritual connection with, someone who you feel like really gets you. And like you think similar, even if your backgrounds are very different. You know, this person may be from a whole different place, but somehow, you know, you like the same foods, you like the same music. So I think with new love, you're going to do very well over the next 2 weeks. When it comes to your existing love relationship, now we look at Mercury doing a semi-square to Jupiter, which is not the friendliest of aspects. I mean, it gets better after you do the hard stuff. So, and that's what this says, is like, go do the hard stuff with each other. And that is, you know, maybe you need to talk to a third party, or maybe you need to just sit down with each other and have a really open conversation. And maybe it's something you haven't wanted to do, but once you do it, things are worlds better. Like, you just can't believe how much better they are. So it's worth the effort, and that's what this aspect is. When you put in the effort, you get the benefit. When it comes to home and family, you're doing some good energy here. You have that energy about neighbors and siblings that is, you know, positive if you're willing to do the work. And you've got Jupiter now in Pisces in that house of home and family. So I think things are going pretty well. You know, there's still, with so much going on in the third house, I'm going to say that there's still some disruption happening. Like, maybe you just moved and you're unpacking, or maybe you're finishing up some renovations, or you are, you know, something's going on in the neighborhood that's a little disruptive, but it does seem like that's getting to be less and less. So I think that you're coming to the tail end of the disruption. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Saturn, which is conjunct this new moon, which means that some new source of money can come to you. And this isn't just limited to one, because there's 3 planets involved here. So this means that you could have multiple different new sources of income, like a side business starts to take off, or something you've wanted to sell just boom, sells, and you get a profit from that. So there could be more money from your job. There could be more money from a side job. I think I already said that. So there are different sources, and a lot of this is about opening up your thinking on it. And by the way, though, I mean, with you and money anyway, it is important that you recognize that because Capricorn rules your money house, that this is a slow growth wealth aspect. It means that by the end of this race, you could be the winner. However, during the process of it, it can feel like it's a lot of work and that you're working harder than others. But this is what happens when Capricorn energy is involved, that you start to feel like you're working harder and that everybody's ahead of you. But then at the end of the race, you look around and you won by a long shot. So Sagittarius, when you are looking at how to do money, you want to actually look at it from a Capricornian standpoint. I know that sounds weird, but it's true. Now, also, you have an absolute chock full money house with Mars, Venus, Mercury, and Pluto there. With Mercury retrograde, it could mean that some money that was supposed to come to you and that didn't now finally shows up. So it's possible you're getting some sort of windfall or some money that was owed to you and it's finally coming in. So I love your money house. Just, like put in this sort of energy of being frugal and being mindful of your money and keeping track of it, and you'll do really well. When it comes to money from traditional investments or investments done in a traditional manner, or money from a business, home business, or some passive income source, the moon's making a conjunction to Saturn. So this is the money that's out there can come into your wallet. So this is a really good time for you to make money through a business, through expanding your territory, through merging with another company, buying a company, or doing some sort of crowdfunding. You could also make money through investing, especially when it's done in a more traditional way, or traditional investments. And traditional investments would be like buying Amazon stock or something very straightforward like that. So that's where we see opportunities for you to make money. And yeah, nice. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, now it's still, there's an aspect. It's Venus making a semi-sextile to Saturn. It's not the greatest of aspects. It's like, you can work hard at it and get tiny results, or it's such an irritating process that when you get the reward, it's not really worth it. So this energy is going to line up better in the future. So you may just want to wait, especially if you're really making a big pitch for a sizable raise or bonus. But if it is just that you want some additional hours, you want a smaller bonus, or you're trying to land a big client, this energy is fine. It just says you're going to feel a little frustrated at first, and then the win comes. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and those are things like gambling or speculation, also traditional investments done in a risky fashion, or things that take a lot of time and energy to get going. Mars is not making an aspect to Saturn, so you're not showing specific profits coming into your accounts at this time. Now, you could be really working on this and just knowing that you're not going to have the payday quite yet. I mean, most of these types of investments take a while anyway, so that's not necessarily so much of a problem, and you are doing some really good energy in general in money. And so I think that all of this energy is going to line up pretty soon for you. So just be patient during this time. And as always, be super careful with risky investments. Okay, Capricorn, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of money. So this is your opportunity to really look at how to expand your income sources, how to expand a single source of income, but also how to handle your money better so that you can keep more of it. Now, this new moon is about having a breakthrough. And so this might be that you suddenly decide that you are going to change the way you handle money, and that can help a lot. Or perhaps you are changing jobs or have an income source that suddenly is starting to take off. Now, this is conjunct Saturn, which is your ruler. So for all the other signs, I've been saying, hey, you have this big hard climb to do. You really have to work because of the Saturn here. But you're very used to that. Saturn is yours. And so Saturn is when you take responsibility, when you lean in, you get the benefits. You become the expert. And so that's what we're seeing here, is you're becoming the expert at handling your finances, doing investments, looking for passive income sources and ways to make more money. Now, this is also about self-worth, and this is where maybe you do have to lean in a little bit, and so that, because there is this component of when you feel you deserve abundance, when you feel you deserve money or a payment, then it comes to you. And that's just, part of how the universe works. And this is why sometimes we look at some people and say, why is that person receiving so much? And it's because they feel they deserve it, whether we can say that objectively or not. So this is working on your sense of self-worth, and your sense of deserving can be really helpful. And that's done through maybe journaling, introspection, meditation, etc. So this is some good energy for you. Now, where we see you speaking forcibly, with conviction, with power, is in that first house of your self-confidence. So it's like the world is turning and looking right at you and saying, okay, Capricorn, what is it that you can do? And it's time to state what it is that you can do. Now, I'm not suggesting this is so much of a fake it until you make it moment, but more that you go into your past and you look for where you have been successful, what you do know how to do, and you bring that positive energy forward to remind yourself that if you could handle those things in the past, you can handle what's coming. So, but specifically, this could mean that you are leading some sort of team meeting, that you are meeting with an influencer or mentor or someone to collaborate with, or you are heading into a very serious relationship. So we have this ability right now for you to speak your mind and to speak your truth, and here is the person who's going to listen to that. So this is all lining up in your favor. Now, when we look at the year of the tiger and the tiger energy for Capricorn, it's a little bit of, I think you might find the energy this year a little irritating, because it is kind of like tiger, which feels this like everything can just happen. We just jump right in, no planning. We just, like roll through it and tumble through it, and it's all going to work out. And this is not very Capricorn type of energy. Capricorn's more about planning and building something and doing something with real mindfulness. And so I think that some of the year you're going to be a little irritated with the people that you meet because they are kind of flying by the seat of their pants, and that's just not so much you. So, but you are going to find quite a few opportunities as you look at what the tiger energy misses. So as people, kind of go through super quick and jump towards this and jump towards that, you're going to find lots and lots of opportunities that they didn't see at all. So I think this still can be quite a good year for you. I think you're just going to spend a little bit of it shaking your head or rolling your eyes. When it comes to relationships and specifically new love, there is, I like your energy for relationships in general, but specifically when it comes to new love, what's going to be important is seeing somebody who you normally wouldn't see, and that is going outside your comfort zone just a smidge. Now, we're not talking about seeing somebody who's completely not your type, but somebody maybe who has some sort of difference. Maybe they're shorter than you like, or maybe they're a little heavier than you like. But if you do something slightly outside of your comfort zone, what you're going to find is a really good match. So consider, dating somebody who you normally don't swipe right on. Or is it left? I don't know. I've never done that. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, the energy is amazing. And that is, really you can connect with your partner on such a deeper level now, and from a place where you are working on your confidence, working on your self-esteem, so you're approaching the relationship from a much stronger place. And this, of course, the other person sees as amazing because they knew you were wonderful already, and so you can really come together as a stronger couple. So really try and capitalize on this, spend some time with each other, talking about the future, talking about, the present, and I think that you're going to be much closer over the next 2 weeks. When it comes to home and family, the energy isn't quite lining up, although I will say that Mars is in your sign, which is great. Mars is in Capricorn, and so if you want to get something done, you can, but it does mean, because it's not lined up, that the contractor you hired isn't showing up on time. But if you call them, then they show up. Or the materials aren't there, but the guy has some different materials to use. Or, your kids aren't paying much attention to you or the chores, but when you say something, then they do. So it's like if you do a little something, then it all comes together. Now, as we said before, you are doing some great energy when it comes to money. You have the moon, the sun, and Saturn in that house with such a strong house of confidence, and I think that you can make money from multiple sources. And so if that's something you've been trying to explore, this is a time to really push in that area. Now, you're pulling money both from that Saturn in the house of money as well as that Uranus, and they are still talking to each other in that square. So that again says that the money that is out there can come to you. And so this is a great time to push forward. And maybe that means, launching your website or doing your sales pitch or posting your resume, something where you can generate money. That's where you see there are real opportunities over the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or investments done in a traditional manner, as well as income from a business, a home business, like a family business, or passive income sources. The sun is making a square to Uranus, so this is great energy because it's so active, it's so energetic. So you might be extremely enthusiastic about working on your business over this next 2 weeks, and so you should lean into it because this is where all the focus is. You've got two things basically to focus on this month, and that is taking care of yourself and looking at where you can gain new sources of income. So look at that as, new investments or new customers, new clients, new territory, new products. You have opportunities this time. Now, when it comes to money from your career, that is money from a paycheck, the co-ruler of this house, Mars, is making a trine to Uranus, so that's even better energy. And so this is a time where you could get a raise, you could get more hours, you could get a better position. If you're looking for a job, you might even be able to negotiate a signing bonus. So look at these different sources for getting more money. And because it's a trine, it is possible that the boss themselves comes to you and says, it's time for your review, here's your more money. But if you take some action during it, you could get even more. So really consider that this is a time to say to your boss, hey, let's have a meeting. And then finally, when we look at risky investments, and these are things like gambling or speculation or traditional investments done in a risky manner, or those things that take a lot of time and energy on spec, where you then deliver a finished product to see if you're going to get paid. All of those types of investments are doing Venus trine Uranus, so one of the best energies that you've had in a while. So that is that there's a big opportunity for you in this area. I do, of course, want to caution you that please don't be doing risky investments with money you can't afford to lose. Please, just remember this is an astrology reading that's very general. I don't have your chart in front of me, so but recognize that you do have an opportunity in this area, so you want to explore it. Okay, Aquarius, this is your new moon, which means that this begins the new 1-year cycle where this is your new moon and you'll get another in a year. And so this is your month for seed planting. That means do as many new things as possible because that means you're planting seeds and that means a bigger harvest later in the year. So you want to try new things when it comes to finding love, in your existing relationships, when it comes to money, job, anything, try a new toothpaste, try a new shampoo, like anything you can think of that's new has the potential to bring you some real benefit later in the year. Now, this new moon is conjunct Saturn. You've been dealing with Saturn here in this house for a long time, and Saturn's technically your co-ruler, so you have an understanding of Saturn, but the energy that you want to watch out for in this is that Saturn sometimes can be so focused on the past, and you, as Aquarius, you don't want to go there. This, where you want to use the Saturn, is about building a structure or building something for the future, and that takes a little bit of effort. You gotta lift the beams and timbers or wood and nail them together. That was a terrible example, but if it takes work to build something. But if you're just focused on the past and, like what could have been and opportunities you missed, you're not using this energy to its best use. So this Saturn here says, look at the new things, new seeds you can plant, but what could plant a great crop? And maybe from a planting metaphor, it would be like you plant the little tomato plant, but then you give it that cage so that it grows really big and it has something to lean on, and that facilitates it. So it's like plant the seed, but then build the structure around the seed so that you can get a great harvest. Where we see you speaking with force and intensity is actually in your hidden house, and that is your house of spirituality and intuition. So one of the things that could be happening is you might be very focused on learning a way to tap into your higher thoughts, your intuition, your psychic ability. And so this might be that you are taking a course on mediumship or learning the tarot, or you're doing remote viewing. So You may be also doing meditation or doing affirmations, journaling. Any of these things can really bring you some amazing insights, like just asking a question and sleeping on it, and in the morning writing down the answer you get. That's very good energy with this combination. Now, when we look at the year of the tiger and tiger energy in general, in comparison to Aquarius, this is very harmonious combination. Like Tiger likes a lot of excitement. It likes to do multiple things and jump from thing to thing, and you're fine with that. You're highly adaptable. You can change at a moment's notice, and you kind of like some excitements, somebody who is breaking some rules. And so this, I think you're going to find, is a very good year just because you're able to spot the trends. You're able to spot different opportunities as they're popping up, and you don't mind being in an environment that feels a little chaotic. Now, when it comes to new love relationships, the energy's a little off at this time, and that means that it's not quite lining up. Like you may meet somebody and then lose their phone number, or nobody writes a phone number down anymore, but maybe don't get it right in the phone, or they don't get yours right, and then later outside this 2-week period they say, hey, I've been trying to call you, and you say, there's nothing on my phone. So the energy is not quite lining up, or it's also possible that you see somebody online and you think they look amazing, and then you meet them in person and they look entirely different. So this, if you're looking for new love, maybe spend this 2 weeks working on your profile, working on your pictures, but don't necessarily meet the person during these 2 weeks, because I think you might be disappointed. Now, when it comes to your existing love relationship, it's a whole different story. The energy is extremely powerful. Let's see, it's a little on the volatile side. And that is that if you were kind of heading towards each other, you could come together like, wow, just really feeling like you are meant to be, you're connected deeper than you've ever been, that you are one mind, one force of nature moving forward. If this relationship was already brittle, then you come together and shatter. And that is that this could be a very difficult time for your relationship, where small things that were bothering you now get blown out of proportion. And so that's where we say this energy is quite powerful. You're very outspoken right now when it comes to what you need, and I think that that's wise for you to do. But if you want to preserve the relationship, you might want to go in more gently about things and try to get maybe some, a third party to sit down with you or talk things through with each other. Because again, if the relationship is already getting stronger, it's going to get much stronger now. But if it's brittle, it could break. When it comes to home and family, the energy is actually very good. And this is Venus is making a trine to Uranus. And so things are working out. And so this is kind of separate from the love relationship. This is with the whole family. Like you're coming together in surprising ways. You're agreeing on things when maybe in the past you haven't agreed on them, that you're doing fun things together. And it looks like you're home, maybe isolated from the world, and you're working on things. Also, repairs are happening. Things look like they're improving in general. When it comes to your money, now both of your rulers of your money house are in the money house, so that's fantastic. And that's going to be lasting on and off for the year. So you have these different pockets of time where things can line up. Now, there will be some times when they really line up together, but this is still a good time to be practicing, looking for different sources of income, looking to handle your money better, etc. So when you have both of the rulers in Pisces, what's important is to bring in the spiritual component, which is really, really strong this time because you have 4 planets in that house of spirituality. Those are Mars, Venus, Mercury, and Pluto. So So right now, your ability to communicate with your higher self and the powers that be is very strong. So do the feng shui, do the prayer, the meditation, light candles, do the incense, do things that put you in harmony with the energy of money itself. And then you're going to find new sources of income pop up. When it comes to traditional investments or investments done in a traditional manner, or income from a business or a passive income source, Mercury is making a sextile to Neptune. Now, Mercury is retrograde, so this does say there might be some delays in getting the money, but it could, the Mercury is going to go direct in just a few days. So I think that it's going to be stronger in the end of this 2-week period. So not so much the first week as Mercury is turning around. We talked about that in the opening, how it moves so slowly. But when Mercury does start to pick up speed towards the end of this 2-week period, I think that you have some great opportunities. Now, it is an opportunity, and that means you do need to take some sort of action to initiate it. And that is the phone call, the email, or because this is a very spiritual placement, just say like a prayer, like say, okay, universe, please send me this money, this person, to buy my product, this person to become a client, or this person to, buy my house. Whatever it is, like asking from a spiritual standpoint can really open things up. When it comes to money from your career, you do have the good energy of having both of the rulers in your house of money, so love that. The sun and moon are lighting you up, so you're more visible than usual. So I think this is one of your best times for gaining something additional in your career. Now, things will line up closer when it comes to Jupiter and Neptune, but you won't have the sun moon in your house of confidence lighting you up. So therefore, this is one of your best times. But as I said, you will get some good times in the future during the year. So if you feel like, I don't want to ask just yet, that's okay. You could, though, drop a hint or two. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and that is gambling or speculation or traditional investments done in a risky manner, or things that you have to do on spec for a long time with no money, and then you sell it for a bigger amount, Mercury is making that sextile to Neptune, but Mercury is retrograde. So what, again, we see very similar energy to your business income is that profits can come in, but there is some delays at first. And then I think things start to happen towards the end of the 2-week period. Again, it's quite important to align yourself spiritually with this. That means if you feel you're doing something that is causing your family some risk, or if you're, using money that you can't afford to lose, which by the way, you should not do. If you are doing something that is outside your sense of integrity, that's really going to interrupt this process and you're not going to get the profits. But if this is something that your heart is really in, maybe you're making your album or writing a novel, something that you really care about, this energy does show an opportunity for profits. Okay, Pisces, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of spirituality, intuition, secrets, all the hidden stuff. And it is it's the month just before your new lunar cycle, which means this is the month to be letting go of things. And that is, what no longer serves you, what is excess, and that could be in a physical sense, like decluttering, but it's mostly in kind of a spiritual sense of what is it that you're finished with? What do you need to let go of to let the universe know, what you no longer want more of. Now, it is also lighting up your house of intuition, like you guys need more intuition. But here, Saturn is kind of coming to your rescue where it can help you structure the process. And so instead of just receiving constant, flashes and things, this is a time where you might study the tarot so that you have a certain time where you're open to other people's energies. Or you might be looking at different ways of doing space clearing so that you can say, well, this house of mine is this no ghost zone, so you're not constantly woken up by spirits or people on the other side who are pulling at your energy. So this is where you can kind of put a boundary in place, and which is so interesting because, a lot of your life lessons are about, what is in your control and what's outside of your control. And so you're always understanding where there is no boundary and where there is a boundary. And so here you have the opportunity to build a wall if you need it. Where we look at you, where you're speaking with force and intensity, is actually out into the world. It is also with friends or groups and organizations and through technology. So this is, it's possible that you're starting your channel or your podcast, and so you're speaking your mind that way. It is possible that you are standing up and speaking in front of a group, organization that you belong to. But this is mostly about putting your voice out into the world and saying, I have something to say. And as you do, then the universe can bring you opportunities for all kinds of things like, interpersonal connections as well as business opportunities. So because you have stated to the world what it is that you want. So this is really positive energy for you if you're going to use it. If you don't, if you feel nervous about speaking in public, or if it's just not your favorite thing, then find another way to voice what it is that you want for your future. And maybe that's just talking to a friend and saying, here's my vision for the next 5 years. When we look at the year of the tiger and how tiger energy is going to mesh with your Pisces energy, it's interesting because you normally don't think of these two getting along. The tiger energy is very rambunctious. It's very unpredictable. It can go in all these different directions. And then, it calms down quite a bit in periods where it just kind of naps and sleeps. And so, but because you have a sense of energy and energy flow, you can actually do quite well this year because you can sense when things are going to heat up. You can step aside if energy gets very chaotic, and when the energy is very quiet, you can feel very peaceful and at home. So I think it's going to surprise you how well you do this year because you can sense the shifts of energy that people are going through. When it comes to relationships and specifically new love, the energy's not really lining up this time for you. It's little two ships passing in the night, or worse, the ship is not even in the harbor. So that's a weird metaphor, but you're behind the scenes. You're working with the bigger energies here. And so this either is not connecting to the individual, or you're just not that interested at the moment. And that's fine because this energy will line up in the future. It'll line up really well in a month or so. So just stay tuned on that. I think that more what you're looking for is a deeper spiritual connection rather than some quick physical fling, for sure. So that also could be why you're not so interested at the moment, because everybody around you may be just interested in the party. Now, when it comes to your long-term relationship, your existing relationship, the energy is much better. What we see is a sextile happening between Mercury and Neptune, and this means there's an opportunity to come together stronger than you have in the past. And this is that you're more about being friends together in this love relationship. You're doing activities together, or maybe you're double dating with somebody, or you're seeing more people, and you're just feeling more like a couple. And that's just really nice. Your home life also looks quite good. It feels like maybe that together you're doing more things, more activities, such as, playing games together. Maybe you're going to go out and do a group activity. Maybe you're coming together for a little bit more of a family reunion, or maybe just meeting on Zoom together. But it's you're seeing a lot more harmony. Your kids are getting along, and you're getting along with external family, no, extended family. So I like the energy here. Now, when it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Mars, which is in your house of the future, technology, the community, and friendships. And that means that there are many different opportunities and directions you can go. By the way, this is also money derived from career, so that looks really good. We'll talk about that in a second. So this is that there are some opportunities when you look at future trends, when you look at ways technology can help you. Even if you're not really techie, there are so many ways that technology can automate what you're doing and streamline what you're doing, and that can be helpful. Or just this idea of, the fact that we can communicate in this way or by Zoom. We talk about, everybody's talking about the metaverse, and maybe you're like, maybe you don't play video games. Maybe you're like, no, I'm not interested in the metaverse. And yet you're talking to coworkers via Zoom, and your grandson by FaceTime. You're doing metaverse anyway. So there's financial opportunities for you when you look at technology, also connecting to groups and organizations. So that means networking or getting back into an organization maybe that you belonged to before, and then also through friendships. And so maybe your friends have a great business idea and they want to talk to you about it. When it comes to traditional investments done in a traditional manner, or income from a business, a family business, or a passive income source, the energy is excellent. Mars is making a conjunction to Venus, and this means that the opportunities are right there for you to profit. That is, it's time to expand your business or make whatever marketing you were going to do to get new customers. It's a good time to look at your investments, see where you should cash in and where you should hold. So this is a good time to be looking at your investments with a fine-tooth comb, because there's some real money that you can profit from. There's money you can profit from. That doesn't make any sense. There is opportunities where you can show a profit. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, the house is chock full. You have Mars, Venus, Mercury, and Pluto there. Now, it's interesting because Mars is not making an aspect to Saturn, so I think that you can get the raise, but it's not in your paycheck over the next 2 weeks. I think it will come up later. The plus is Mars is in Capricorn, and which is ruled by that Saturn. So there is a connection. So again, I think you can get the raise. I think you just need to talk to your boss and say, I'm overdue. I've been working really hard. They can give you more hours, a bonus, a better commission schedule. All of this can come to pass because you are doing such a strong house. This will line up a little bit better in the future. So if you feel like, I don't feel like it's the right time, that's okay. You still may gain some small win during this 2-week period. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and that is gambling or speculation, or traditional investments done in a risky manner, or anything that is where you're doing a lot of work up front before you're getting paid, like being a photographer and, learning the trade. The moon is making a semi-sextile to Mars. So this is, if you step slightly outside of your comfort zone, you have an opportunity to gain something. Unfortunately, because it's a semi-sextile, the profits that you make may be less than you were hoping for. So, and perhaps that's because they're getting eaten up by fees, or that what you were promised just turns out to be smaller. So it's not, it is an aspect, that's great, but it's not the greatest aspect. So you might want to wait till this lines up a little bit better. But there's something that's either makes you feel a little uncomfortable or a little irritated about the process. So you do need to watch out for that, because sometimes that's a sign that you're going in a direction where there's so much friction, it's not going to be worth the effort. But if this is part of the learning process where you're putting a little bit down to see what the whole process is about, wow, that's great, you know. And then if just a little bit comes back, then you can say, okay, let me investigate further. And always do be careful, because these are risky investments. You know, be cautious, because this, you know, I'm not seeing your whole chart here. I'm only doing a general reading. And so I can't see all of the circumstances that you're in. So trust more in your intuition, especially if you have worked on your financial intuition in the past, and align yourself spiritually with money energy through, you know, meditation and a sense of deserving. And I think that you could do at least a little bit of profit over the next 2 weeks. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe and stay tuned, because LaRue wants to say hi.